What if Toba Supervolcano erupted? Imagine standing near the serene waters of Lake Toba in Sumatra. The landscape is peaceful, the air calm, and the horizon beautiful. Yet beneath this tranquil surface lies a sleeping giant, one of the most dangerous forces on Earth, waiting silently beneath the crust. Now imagine the ground beginning to tremble. At first, it feels like an ordinary earthquake, something the people of Indonesia are familiar with. But deep inside the Earth, a massive chamber of magma is pushing upward. Pressure that has been building for tens of thousands of years, suddenly seeking release. In a blinding instant, the Earth ruptures. A colossal explosion erupts with unimaginable force, sending fire, ash, and molten rock miles into the sky. This is not an ordinary volcanic eruption. This is Toba, awakening of a supervolcano with power that dwarfs anything humanity has ever faced. Toba is not just a volcano. This is one of the largest supervolcanoes on the planet, capable of releasing energy greater than millions of nuclear bombs. About 74,000 years ago, it erupted with such intensity that it reshaped the Earth's climate and nearly drove humankind to extinction. Scientists believe that after the last Toba eruption, the global human population may have shrunk to just a few thousand individuals. Our species survived by a fragile thread, eventually recovering and spreading once more across the globe. But what if it erupted again, here and now in our modern world? The first moments would be catastrophic for Indonesia. North Sumatra, home to millions, would be obliterated in seconds. Entire cities, forests, and rivers would disappear under pyroclastic flows, giant avalanches of superheated gas, rock, and ash racing at hundreds of kilometers per hour. Nothing could survive within the blast zone. People, animals, and infrastructure would be vaporized instantly. The destruction would rival the detonation of the largest nuclear arsenal imaginable. Except this force comes from nature itself. But the devastation would not stop there. The eruption would eject thousands of cubic kilometers of ash into the sky. Towering clouds would block out the sun, casting Southeast Asia into darkness. Ashfall would spread across the entire region, collapsing roofs, contaminating water, and suffocating millions. Air travel across Asia would shut down within hours. Airports from Jakarta to Singapore, Bangkok to Manila, would be blanketed in ash. Airplanes could not fly through the volcanic cloud without risking engine failure. Within days, the entire global aviation system would be crippled. The true horror, however, would reach far beyond Asia. Volcanic gases, especially sulfur dioxide, would rise into the stratosphere, spreading around the world. These particles would reflect sunlight back into space, plunging Earth into what scientists call a volcanic winter. Global temperatures would begin to fall. Crops in China, India, Africa, and the Americas would wither as growing seasons shorten. Wheat fields would freeze, rice paddies would fail, and corn harvests would collapse. Humanity's food supply, built carefully over centuries, would suddenly crumble. Hunger would spread like wildfire. Food prices would skyrocket, leaving billions unable to afford basic meals. Countries would close borders, hoard resources, and watch their neighbors with suspicion. International tensions would flare, and conflicts over food and water might erupt across the globe. Meanwhile, ecosystems would be thrown into chaos. Indonesia's tropical rainforests, already among the most diverse in the world, would be destroyed by ash and fire. Countless species would lose their habitats, driving many to extinction. The shockwaves would travel far beyond Asia, disrupting ecosystems on every continent. Sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere would mix with water vapor, falling as acid rain. Rivers and lakes would become toxic. Farmlands would be poisoned. Freshwater systems that millions rely on would no longer be safe to drink. Humanity would be forced to scramble for survival in a poisoned world. As sunlight dimmed, polar ice would begin to expand. Earth could plunge into a new mini ice age, lasting years or even decades. Coastal regions would freeze, oceans would cool, and weather patterns would shift unpredictably. The balance of life on Earth would be permanently altered. For humans, the eruption would feel like the end of the world. Cities across the globe would choke on ash. Hospitals would overflow with patients suffering from lung disease, burns, and malnutrition. Modern technology, from power plants to internet cables, would falter under the weight of ash and the collapse of infrastructure. Global trade, the lifeline of modern civilization, would grind to a halt. Ships could not sail safely through ash-covered seas. Trucks and trains would run out of food to transport. Even wealthy nations would find themselves struggling to maintain order as millions went hungry. And yet, within this apocalyptic vision, life would still cling to survival. Volcanic ash, while deadly at first, would eventually enrich the soil with minerals. Years later, new forests would grow, grasslands would spread, and ecosystems would begin to heal. Out of destruction, the seeds of renewal would emerge. Pioneer plants would take root in the ash, followed by insects, birds, and mammals. Evolution would accelerate, with new species adapting to the changed environment. Life on Earth would prove once again that it is both fragile and resilient. For humanity, survival would depend not just on technology, but on cooperation. Unlike our ancestors 74,000 years ago, we have satellites, global communication, and the ability to predict volcanic activity. We could prepare stockpiling food, relocating populations, and sharing resources across borders. But preparation requires unity, and unity is never easy. Would nations put aside their rivalries to save humanity as a whole? Or would the world collapse into chaos, with each country fighting for itself? That question might determine whether humanity endures or fades into history. History shows us that we have survived before. Our ancient ancestors lived through Toba's last eruption, barely clinging to life. From a few thousand survivors, humanity rose again, built civilizations, and reached the stars. The possibility of survival exists, but the world that emerges afterward would be forever changed. Ultimately, the eruption of Toba would serve as a reminder of our place in the natural order. For all our technology, power, and ambition, nature remains stronger than us. The Earth has shaped life for billions of years, and it will continue to do so with or without humanity. Today, as we look at Lake Toba's calm waters, we see beauty, but beneath that beauty lies danger. It is not merely a tourist attraction or a scenic wonder, a sleeping giant. The question is not whether it will erupt again, but when. And when that day comes, humanity will face its greatest trial. Will we be ready to endure the fury of the Earth? Or will we repeat history, brought to the edge of extinction once more by the power of Toba? Only time and our choices will reveal the answer.